Breakthrough, Chapter 5, Talia. 3 days later, Talia remained undiscovered. There had been no calls, no inspectors pounding on the door. Talia could almost convince herself that she hadn't really been seen, but she had been. When the person had looked up, their eyes had met for a single instant. She didn't tell her parents about it. After all, what would have been the point? It would only worry them. "Are you almost done reading the books I brought you?" her father asked before breakfast on the third day. "Not really," Talia replied. "Do you need them back?" "Soon," her father said. "I can give them to you today," Talia offered. "No," her father said. "I want you to finish reading them first." "I'm surprised it's taking you this long," her mother commented. "You're usually finished in a day or two." "I know," Talia said. "I've been a bit distracted lately." The truth was, she was hardly able to read anything. She was constantly pacing around her room or sitting at the window. She'd been restless before, lots of times, but this was worse. "Are you feeling all right?" her father asked. Talia looked up from her cereal to find both of her parents looking at her with concern. "Yeah, I'm fine," she said. "Why?" "You've seemed nervous for days," her mother said, "and I know you've barely glanced at those books." "Do you not like them?" her father asked. "It's not that," Talia said. "They're actually pretty interesting, but I just can't concentrate. Maybe it's the weather or something." She knew that was probably the worst excuse she could have given, but her parents didn't argue. "Well, I've got to go," her father said, standing up. "See you tonight." "Have fun at work," Talia called as he left the room. "Are you sure there's nothing wrong?" her mother asked as she started putting away the dishes. "I'm sure," Talia said. "Stop worrying." "All right, honey," she said as she closed the dishwasher. "But remember, you can talk to us about anything." "I know, Mom," Talia said. "Now, you're going to be late if you don't hurry." Her mother glanced at the clock and jumped. "Oh, crap, you're right," she said, closing the cutlery drawer with a loud bang. "Have a good day," she said, kissing Talia on the cheek as she passed. "See you tonight." After her mother was gone, Talia sat on the stairs thinking. She knew her father would want her to finish those books, but she didn't feel like reading today. She felt restless, between thoughts of the girl who had looked at her, and wondering about the island her mother had told her about. She couldn't even think about reading. She really wanted to go outside, even though she knew she couldn't. She hadn't been outside in the daylight since she was 7. Since then, she'd gone outside in the middle of the night a few times, but she didn't even do that very often. It was just too risky. Besides, that was just one more thing her parents didn't know about. She hated it that she could lie so easily to her parents, but she had to. They would stop her from going outside, because no matter how good their intentions, they were too cautious. They would keep her locked inside for her own safety until they died, or until her mother found a way to take her to that special island she talked about, if it even existed. With a sigh, she went upstairs to start her reading. Her father had risked a lot to get those books to her, and this was the least she could do. A few hours later, Talia was deep in a book when she heard a key in the lock. She jumped up, surprised. Her parents never came home this early. Then she heard her mother's voice. "Talia! Talia, are you here?" "Yeah, of course," Talia replied. "Where else would I be?" Her mother came running up the stairs and burst into Talia's bedroom. She was out of breath, and she looked like she'd been crying. "Oh, thank God you're still here," she cried. "But they'll come for you soon. They know." "Why? What's going on?" Talia asked, starting to pick up on her mother's panic. "The books," her mother began. "Those books your father brought you. Turns out they were supposed to be returned. Someone asked about them, and he told a lie. I don't know how they knew, but someone got suspicious and had him tested." Talia couldn't believe it. "So, they know everything?" she said flatly. "Yes," her mother replied, starting to cry. "They already killed your father, and they'll come here any minute. Talia, you have to get out of here. You have to run away." Talia stared at her mother in shock. She couldn't process all that she just heard. Her father was dead? But how could that be? Just this morning they'd all been talking over breakfast. Things had been okay. And now, only a few hours later, her whole world was shattered and she was about to plunge headfirst into the unknown. Will you come with me? She asked in a small voice. Her mother shook her head. I'm sorry, baby, but I can't, she said. They'll know if I run away. I'm dead either way. But maybe if I tell them it was just weak, wishful thinking. I'll be tested, of course, but it might buy you enough time to escape. Talia nodded. Suddenly, she felt her panic recede and she suddenly felt eerily calm. She'd always known that the time would come when she had to leave, and she felt as if she was doing something for the first time since she was 7. It was her parents that Talia worried about. As much as she hated it, her mother was right. She would be killed. Whatever Talia did. If she escaped, then maybe one of them could survive. Her mother was running around, packing a backpack for Talia. Okay, here's the plan, she said. Hide in the secret space until they leave to test me. Then, when we're gone, wait a moment, then run as fast as you can. But where do I go? Talia asked. You have to get to the other island, her mother said. I don't know how, but it's your only chance. Just then there was a sharp knock on the door. They're here, her mother said. She grabbed Talia's arm, pulled her into the closet, and shoved her into the space. Here, her mother said, thrusting the bag into Talia's arms. I packed some food and clothes. Goodbye, Talia. I love you. Then the door closed, and Talia heard her mother hurry off down the stairs. Talia wished the walls were thicker at that moment, because she really didn't want to hear what came next. The door banged open, and someone said, Where's the girl? I don't know what you're talking about, her mother responded. And even in her horrified state, Talia couldn't help admiring the confidence in her mother's voice. She showed no fear, even though she knew she was about to die. Don't lie, the inspector yelled. It won't help you now. It's all a misunderstanding, her mother said. Oh, we wish so hard that Talia was back with us. But we know it's not true. You know it. You've searched our house regularly for years. The reader can't lie, the inspector said. Look, we're going to find out whether or not you tell us. So why not make it easy? No, Talia's mother shrieked. Then she heard the sound of running. Don't let her get away! Another inspector cried. Then there were more footsteps and the slamming of the front door. After that, the house was silent. Talia tried to stay quiet, just in case there were inspectors remaining in the house. But it was useless. The sobs poured out of her in waves of grief, and she couldn't stop them.